Hi y'all, welcome to a tutorial video for making custom snowfall forecast maps in QGIS. Today I'll be showing you how to make a little something like this for your area, wherever you are, whether in the United States or across the world. Throughout the winter seasons, I often see these similar maps pop up on social media or personal websites, and sometimes they're drawn in Paint or some other software, but QGIS is really such a great platform for creating custom and really clean snowfall forecast maps for you to use however you like, whether you're a social media buff or a personal website person. These are great for either. So with that, I'm going to hop over to QGIS. One thing you're going to need to get started is QGIS downloaded and installed on your computer. I'm not going to walk you through that process, but you can certainly find tutorials online, and I'll link a couple of tutorials below as well in the description, so you can do that. But once you download QGIS, you're going to open up a new project and it'll bring you to this page. This is where we're going to start. We're going to need data sources to populate everything, so we can head on over to my GitHub page, which is also linked in the document, or pardon me, in the video description below. And over here, move tabs, you will see, once you click that link, you'll see a snowflake background.jpg and a WNC counties.zip file. Don't worry about the README, that's just some further information on this GitHub repo here, but you're going to need to download both of these two right here. So we'll start with the WNC counties, click on that, and then just select download. That'll go straight to your downloads. Then we'll head back over, click on code in the upper corner to get back to the original GitHub repo, and then click on the snowflake background.jpg, select download. It's going to bring up this page. You can just right click and select save as, and we'll put it in my downloads. We'll just save it as snowflake background. That's just fine. So now we'll head back over to QGIS. We have our data sources downloaded for what we're going to do today. It is worth noting that wherever you are, if you want to make these maps, you're going to need your own shapefiles, your own county borders for this. I'm going to put out another separate video tutorial that I'll link below for that. I know that can be a little bit tricky and confusing for folks, but I'm not going to cover that in this video. So just go to the video description, click on that tutorial if you need that. But for now, we're just going to work with the sample data that I have. So loading data in, I know that's a confusing thing for a lot of people in QGIS. You can load in the shapefile we just downloaded by going over to your downloads or wherever you saved this file in your file explorer, and just select WNC counties, that's our shapefile, and drag and drop into QGIS. And just like that, you see it automatically loads in. It's purple, it looks kind of funky, but that's all right. The first thing I like to do once this shapefile is loaded into QGIS is double click over here. You can double click on the layer, WNC counties, and it's going to bring up the layer properties panel. I like to make this purple area, or whatever color it may be red or brown for you, I like to make that color transparent so you don't have to worry about it. So if you click on the color here and go to opacity, drag it all the way down to 0% and select OK and OK again. There we go. Now the area between the borders of our shapefile are completely transparent. So we could overlay this on another layer and our borders would still show up, but nothing in between the borders would be blocked. Now we need to create a shapefile for the actual snowfall forecast. In order to do that, we're going to have to make something custom. So you go into one of the upper panels here and you'll see this little jagged line. If we click this, the new shapefile layer, select it, it's going to bring up this little box. We're going to have to give it a name. So select the three dots, file name, and I'm going to save it to my downloads, just where we had everything else, and I will just call it WNC Snowfall Forecast Map Demo, and select Save. And we need to set our geometry type to polygon. That's really important here. So click there and then go down to polygon, select it, and then we'll be good to go. You can just select OK, and that will load in your shapefile. But remember, your shapefile is empty at this point. We haven't given it any borders or any information, so nothing will show up on the big screen here, but you will see it show up in the layers panel over here. So in order to populate that file with some polygons, you need to go up, have your WNC Snowfall Forecast Map Demo layer selected, go to Toggle Editing, go ahead and click that, and then head over to this little Add Polygon feature right here. If we select this, you'll see that when you come back over your map, you have this little target almost on your screen that you can move around. This is what we're going to use to draw our polygons for the snowfall forecast. So the first thing I like to do, I like to completely surround the area that I'm forecasting for just with a base layer. So we're going to go like this, and you can just left click all the way around, create a circle or a square, whatever you'd like, around your entire area, and then you can just right click. That will end your polygon and bring up a box to label it with an ID. Because this is our base layer, I like to label it with an ID of 0. This will be the very bottom 0th layer. So put 0 in and then select OK. You'll see it's covering up our counties all of a sudden, but that's all right. If you just go over and select our snowfall forecast map, and you can just drag it right below the counties right there, and you'll see those borders pop up on top. And yes, some of the colors as we go through this first section will be very monotone. This whole shapefile will be orange for a little bit, but I will cover the symbology and clipping and smoothing and editing everything else out in about 5 minutes. So we click back down onto our snowfall forecast map so we can make more edits. I'm going to come up with this made-up scenario where Western North Carolina has a moderate snowfall event happening with little to no snow in the valleys and low elevations, and maybe just a few inches in the high elevations. So because I know those areas pretty well, being from around here, I'm going to draw out a circle of an area where I expect there to be at least 1 inch or more of snow. So we can draw around here. I'll cut out the low elevations and then just clip up the low elevations over here. And everything inside of this circle that I'm drawing is going to get at least 1 inch of snow per my forecast. And you right click, your ID comes up, and you can enter 1. So you want this ID to be at least 1 higher than the previous ID. So our previous ID was the base layer, which we labeled 0. This one is going to be 1 higher, so we can just label it 1. You can think of it as 1 inch if you're forecasting for a 1 inch margin, or you can just think of it as a Z order if you're familiar with any type of coding. This is the layer in which our shapefile will the way our shapefile will render this new polygon that we're drawing. So if we click OK, you'll see it populate in. It's still the same color, but you can see the border of what we just drew right around there. Now I'll add a 2-inch layer. We'll keep some of the same areas in it. We'll continue to cut out that, and then we'll just maybe cut out the French Broad Valley here. Sorry, Ashevilleans, no snow for you. But remember, this is a made-up scenario. And then once again, we're going to come up and finish the polygon over here. Right-click and give this ID 1 higher than the previous. The last one was 1, so this one needs to be 2 or more. Select OK. Let me see that populate in. And then lastly, I'll do a third shape. And I should break this into 2 pieces so you can see how you can give 2 separate polygons the same ID. So I'll draw a polygon over the Smokies and the high elevations over into the balsams, just like that. And we'll end it right there. And I'll give this an ID of 3 because this is our third layer. And you can also do another one. Say I want one over here for the high country into the blacks and the irons and all of that. And we'll right click. I'm going to give this an ID of 3 as well because I want it to be the same color as the other 3. Both of these areas I want to have 3 inches of snow within the polygon. So we'll click 3, go with OK, and there we go. It may not look like much, but your map is made. This is the starting point. But you'll notice it's jagged, it's monotone. We need to change how this looks and make it a little bit prettier. So let's go ahead and save our layer edits right there and toggle our editing so we don't mess it up anymore. And then head on over to your processing toolbox. If it's not already open, say it's closed like this. No, I don't want to make edits. Let's say it's closed like that. You can go up here to the gear, the toolbox is what it's called. Select this gear and it will open up your processing toolbox. First thing we want to do is go ahead and smooth it. Let's get rid of all the jagged lines that we have. So if you type in smooth, you will see underneath vector geometry the smooth option right there. Double click it and it will bring up this panel. What you want your snowfall forecast map and the input layer and then iterations right here. It's currently set at 1. These 2 pieces are really the only ones you need to pay attention to. I like to run 3 iterations of smoothing just because it gets rid of all of the really jagged 90-degree angles that I may have drawn. If you run more than 10 or 15, you're going to start to bog down your computer, and you really don't need more than 3 to 5 depending on how jagged your edges are. So I'm just going to stick with 3 and click run, and that'll run real quick. And you'll see, you may notice behind me that this color has changed. So if I close, the smooth polygon has automatically loaded into QGIS right here. It's labeled as smooth. So we can unclick our original one, the one with the jagged edges. Now we have a nice smooth red polygon with our lines still in it. but I don't want it to show all of these areas outside of the counties that I'm forecasting for. So I'm going to head back on over to the processing toolbox, clear out smooth, and type in clip. And this is where I'm going to use a feature that can be a little tricky, but that's all right. We'll go down to Saga section and click polygon clipping. If we double click, it'll bring up this box. And one thing you want to be careful of with your clip features, this is where you want to put your counties. So we want to clip our smooth polygon to fit within the WNC counties. In the input features, this is where we want our smoothed polygon. This is what's getting clipped. This is what is doing the clipping essentially. We also have to put smoothed in twice. Input features down here. If we select a little 3 dots, and we can just select smoothed, OK, and we will run it. It'll take just a second to run, varying times depending on what your computer is like. There we go. Once it does finish running, it'll automatically load into your layers panel. So we can just click close, and there you see this orange. It's only within our county area, and if we unclick smoothed, you can still see the lines that we drew earlier that are now all smoothed out and pretty. But it's still all one color, it's still orange. We need to make it more of a familiar color for snowfall forecasts. So this is where we can dive into some of the symbology of QGIS. If you double click on the output features that we just created, like that, that'll bring up this layers property panel. We saw it earlier when we were making the counties transparent, but now we don't want to make our polygon transparent. We actually want to make our snowfall forecast map have different colors depending on the snowfall forecast that we would like. So if you go from single symbol up here, if you go down to categorized, you'll see this page load in, and we want to change the colors of each area based on its ID. So you'll see your value option here, click the down arrow, select ID, it'll be the only option, and then go down to classify right down there. If we click apply, you'll see that suddenly each of the areas we drew earlier has its own unique color. They're still kind of wonky, that's okay. You can do 2 things here. You can either edit each color by double clicking on each of these little squares right here. You can edit the color in here, like so. You can make this green one over to pink if you'd like, and click apply. Or you could do what my preference is. You can go up to the color ramp. You can see it's currently set at random colors. If you click the down arrow, I like to go down to all color ramps and use the BUPU, the blue purple color ramp. Just go ahead and select it, and you'll see your colors here on your legend will automatically populate with a blue to dark purple color ramp, which is exactly what most people are looking for in a snowfall forecast. Now you notice I just clicked apply. I'll click OK to get out of here, and now it's really starting to look like a snowfall forecast map. But it does still have these black lines dividing each one of the forecast areas. I don't love that since they can be confused with the shape, or pardon me, with the county lines. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of those, double click on output features, and select all of these squares here. So if you click the first one, hold down shift, and click the last, it'll select all of them. And you just click symbol right here, simple fill, and go down to your stroke style. It's currently set at solid line, but we want to change that to no pen. So just click no pen, select OK, and then we'll click OK here. And that's going to get rid of those black lines. So now the only black lines are our county borders, and all of our fill is nice and has good colors that are associated with your typical snowfall forecast map. So this is looking really good. This is a great start, but we need to format it correctly so that it has a legend, and you can export it to some kind of image that you could use for your social media or your website, wherever and however you want to distribute this map that we're making. So what we need to do is we need to go up to Project here in the upper toolbar, click Project, and go down to Layout Manager. This is what we're going to select to create a layout in which we're going to edit this and export it to an image. So we want an empty layout. Let's go ahead and click Create. It'll ask for a name, so I will just say WNC Snowfall Map Demo. Click OK. Once you click OK, you'll see this box come up. It's got a big white square in the middle, a bunch of gray area on the edges, and a bunch of options surrounding it. Don't be overwhelmed by everything. First thing we're going to do is we're going to change this white box so that it shows the map we just had over here. In order to do that, you're going to go to Add Item, click Add Map, and you'll see a little cross arrows, or whatever you want to call it, show up. Crosshairs, pardon me, show up on your screen. You take those up to the upper left corner, click and drag, and you see this red box expanding. This is going to be the map that we're drawing. It's going to show what we just had over on the other window. So I like to draw it out all the way over to the right edge, and I don't typically drag it all the way down just because I think it's a weird proportion. So I'll draw it to right about there, and you'll see there we are. A map loads in. The counties are kind of small, but you can change that over here with the scale feature. It's currently set at this very large number, but if we change, say we change that 6 to a 2, that's still even a little bit too far away, so I'm going to change the 12 right there at the start of the number to a 9, and there we are. That's pretty good sized. So now our counties are zoomed in and pretty properly formatted. I would go ahead and set exactly where you want your map to be in the middle of your screen before we make any additional edits, just in case you're drawing arrows or putting labels on the map. You don't want to have to move this map around right here after we have started putting arrows on the layout. In order to move this, I know I did that quickly a second ago, you could go over here and select this little button right here, right underneath the pointer. If you select that, and then you can drag around the screen, and you can zoom with that feature as well. But I'm going to set my map right there and then head back up to the cursor. That way I'm not dragging it around anymore. The first thing I'm going to do now that we have the map loaded is add in a legend. It's really important for folks to understand what your forecast is. So if you go back up to add item and go to add legend, once again you'll see the crosshairs pop up, and we're just going to draw that legend in right here in the bottom corner. You'll notice you have a lot of things in here that you don't want. You have no interest in having the WNC counties labeled or smoothed or your original jagged forecast map labeled, since none of them are shown on the map we have now. So you can click each one of these and delete them, but important, before you can do that, you actually have to deselect, unselect, auto update right here. So unclick that, and then you can delete each of these unwanted layers. So we'll delete WNC counties, we'll delete smoothed, and we'll delete the WNC snowfall forecast map demo. Now we're getting somewhere. We see the colors we have on our map over here in the legend. We don't want this output features name, so we can right click on that over here in the legend item properties, select hidden, and that'll get rid of it. We don't have this color, this last color on the map. This stands for other. So if you have a polygon that you drew that doesn't have an ID that's covered here, that has an ID of something greater than the 1, 2, or 3, that would be colored with this, but we don't have one of those, so I'm going to delete that as well. As a stylistic thing, a lot of people like to see the highest totals at the top and the lowest at the bottom of the legend, so I'm going to select this 3 here since it should be at the top, and I'm just going to use these arrows right here to click up and rearrange this entire legend here, just like that. So there we go. Now we're getting somewhere, but still our legend boxes are a little small. I'd like to see them bigger. So if you scroll down in your items property tab and go to symbol, if you select that, you'll see your symbol height, your symbol width. Let's keep the same symbol width, but I'm going to change my symbol height to 10 right here. There we go, that populates in, and it's looking a little bit better. I do wish there wasn't space between each of these boxes though. So you can close your symbol section and open up your spacing. You see a lot of options pop up here, but the one we want to focus on is space between symbols. It's currently set at 2.5 millimeters. Let's just go ahead and change that to 0. And there you go, the space disappears between each of your colored boxes in the legend, and it's really starting to look like it's near its final product. But we do want to change. Say you labeled your ID with 0 through 3, but you actually want to make your snowfall forecast higher, which I'll do in this situation, just in case your forecast isn't 0 through 3 inches. I'm going to change this light blue, this lowest area. You can double click the text here in the item properties, double click that, and say we want this to be 2 to 4 inches. You can just type here in this label 2-4 inches, and you'll see it automatically updates over here in your legend. And then we'll say we want this one to be 4 to 8 inches, this one to be 8 to 12. Goodness, I wish. And this last one will make it, we'll make this last one 12 inches plus, just like that. So that's just a way you can edit the amounts on your legend without actually having to worry about what IDs you put in earlier. I'm going to change the fonting on the font on that just because I don't love the base font that they give you. So if you see this fonts and text formatting section, click that arrow, you'll see these options pop up. You go to item labels, click item font, and here you can change all of your fonts, your font styles, and your sizes. I'm going to just use Arial, and I'll use bold font, why not? And we'll go with size 15, just like that. There we go. So I'm going to nest that down in the corner of my map here. And yeah, this is starting to look really good. We can add a label up top. If you click add item, add label, and we can just stick that here to say snowfall. Well, let's say it's happening on a Monday into a Tuesday. Monday-Tuesday snowfall forecast. Once again, you can change your font under the appearance tab. This time, select font, and I'm going to change it to Arial. And I will keep this as a regular font style, but make it size 25, sure. It just barely fits in. If it doesn't fit in and looks like that, you can drag your edges around to make it fit. But just make it however you want. The whole point of this layout manager is that you can customize it. So you don't have to follow all the steps that I'm showing you here. You can really do any font or any legend style that you'd like. These are just some of my preferences that I figured I'd share with you. You could put underneath this label a smaller label with your information. So say you add one there and just say example by Evan Fisher. You know, this is where you can put your website or your social media handle, whatever that may be. And once again, I'm going to change my font to something a little bit prettier. Now, that's a little bit too big. So oftentimes it's a guess and check system with this. Do what you think looks nice, and if you take a step back for a minute and walk away, and then come back and you think it looks bad, just change it. It's no big deal. One thing you can add in to make it a little less boring with a white background, this is where that snowfall background.jpg can come in handy. So if we go up to add item in this upper corner, it'll bring down this menu. We've seen it a few times before. Select add picture. And just like you drew the map earlier, you're going to click and drag a box over your entire map area, snap it to the bottom right corner, and just let go. You'll see your item properties populate with a picture property. It's currently set at SVG image. You'll notice that there's nothing changed about our appearance here in the map, but we want to load in that snowfall background image. So if you select roster image, you select these three little arrows, you'll see this will bring up our downloads. This is where I put the snowflake background earlier. Wherever you happen to store it in your file explorer is just fine. So just double click it and you'll see it loads into our layout manager here, or our layout, actual layout. We change our resize mode from zoom to stretch. That's going to cover that little white area down there. And then let's just send this to the back. So if you select items up here, clearly we don't want it to cover our map. So if you select items and then send to back, you'll see it completely disappears behind the map. That's because our map currently has a background set in the item properties. So if we go over and just deselect background right there, you'll see the snowflakes pop up behind your map and it's starting to look very wintry. You can also select your legend and get rid of that background as well. Just unselect that right there. I'm going to make a couple of last tweaks here, just stylistic things that I prefer. But truly, if you've reached this point, you know what you're doing, and you can skip forward to the end of the video for the export information on exporting this map to a PNG or a JPEG, whatever file format you'd like to share this with your social media following or your website folks. So my last couple of tweaks that I'll make, I'm going to add in a shape, add item, add shape, and add a rectangle. Start in the upper left and drag it all the way over the area again. I don't like how the snowflakes are so bold in the background. I want them to be a little bit more muted. So what I like to do is I'll create this rectangle over the whole area. I'll select style, select simple fill. I'm going to get rid of the solid line on the edge just because I don't want any of this to have a frame. So click no pen, and then I'm going to change the fill color. It's currently set at white, which is great, but I want that opacity to be more like 60%, just like that. So now you can see through it, you see everything that's behind it, which is good, but we want to only have this white opacity filter over the snowflakes, not on the map. So if we click it, it'll select our rectangle, go up to items. Like we did earlier, we're going to send it to the back, but now it's behind the snowflake background. So you kind of have to move stuff around here. I'll click on my map and drag it down just a little bit so that I can select the snowflakes behind it. And then I'll just select the snowflakes layer, go to items, send it back, and now it is nested behind that rectangle that we just drew. And it's a little more muted, and the snowflakes are not quite as aggressive in the background. You could add some labels down here. You add a label here with some information just on your forecast information or more info on your blog, whatever that may be. Heavy snow moving in Monday into Tuesday, whatever. That's pretty rushed. You change your font to match the rest of your page, just like that. You could center it in the middle, however you like. There's so many features over here to work with. And lastly, one other thing I do like to do, if you have an area with a lot of uncertainty, you can go up to add item, somewhere where you're not really sure in your forecast. You feel like there could be some serious, significant bust potential. If you go over to add shape, I'm going to click add ellipse and just draw an ellipse over here. Let's say southwestern North Carolina, we're a little unsure in the forecast. It'll load in. It's not transparent, so the first thing I want to do is click on Style, Simple Fill, and go ahead and make that fill color completely transparent like we've done a few times before. And then I don't want the edges to be solid and black, just because once again that blends in with the county borders. So I'm going to click Stroke Style, change it from solid pen to dashed line, change the color from black to a rich blue. And I'm also going to change that stroke width from 0.3 to, let's call it 1.3. Sure, that's a good width. And I might rotate that as well just to make it align with the counties down there. So if you go back to your item properties and select rotation, I'm going to set my rotation to -10. Sure, that sits in there nicely. We could add an item just as a label below it to say area of greatest uncertainty. Just like that. Change our font to Arial, size 15, and I'll add an exclamation point just to get the point across. Center it, and then we can draw an arrow to that. That's one thing I haven't shown you. So if you go up to add item, all of these features here, you can add all of these onto the map. I'm not going to use all of them today, but you should mess around with them and explore a little bit in future maps that you make. If you click add arrow, I'm just going to draw it from my text box up to this uncertainty circle that we drew. Just like that. That's our area of greatest uncertainty. So with that, the only step left to do is export this map. If you're happy with your final product, we're going to make it into an image that you can share. So go up to your toolbar up here and select Layout. You'll see all of these options pop up, and we're going to go with Export as Image. So if you click on that, it'll bring up your File Explorer. I'm just going to save it to my downloads, and the file name automatically populates with your layout name. I'm going to stick with WNC Snowfall Map Demo. I'm going to save it as a PNG, but you could save it as a JPEG if you'd like, or a TIFF, or whatever you'd like. I recommend PNG or JPEG. Those are very typical. And then just click Save. It'll bring up this Options box. Because I have this extra white space down here that I didn't make my map on, I'm going to need to click Crop to Content. That's going to make sure that when this exports, it only shows the stuff within the map. It doesn't show this extra white space. So click Crop to Content and click Save. And that is going to save that image to our File Explorer. So I'll go over there just real quick to show you where it went. And you'll see over here in my downloads, there it is, WNC Snowfall Map Demo. And if we double click it, it comes up and it looks just like what we had a moment ago in QGIS layout. So with that, that concludes the end of this tutorial. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe if you'd like to see more QGIS weather-related content. I'm going to be pumping out a lot of it over the coming weeks and months. I really appreciate you taking the time to do this, and I wish you the best of luck with all of your snowfall forecasts this winter. Thanks and have a great day.